Your badge still works. That's the first thing you notice when you scan it at the entrance. The quiet beep, the green light, the door swinging open exactly as it has every morning for 6 years. Your body moves through the routine the way bodies do when they've done something enough times to stop thinking about it. Badge, elevator, third floor, left down the hallway, past the water dispenser that's been making a clicking sound for 8 months that nobody has ever fixed. Your desk is exactly as you left it on Friday. The plant, the photo, the coffee mug with the chip on the handle that you keep meaning to replace. You sit down. You open your laptop. And there it is. The email that arrived at 6:14 this morning, for minutes before your alarm went off, which means it was there while you were still asleep, sitting in your inbox in the dark, patient, waiting for you to come find it. Subject line: important update regarding your role. Please read before 9 a.m. You already know what it says. You read it anyway. The word they use is transition, not elimination, not replacement, not the word you've been half hearing in meetings for the past 8 months, spoken in the specific register of people who are trying to discuss something without discussing it, in hallway conversations that stop when you walk past, in all-hands presentations where certain slides stay on screen for exactly long enough to move on without questions. The word is transition. Your role, the email explains, is being transitioned to an automated workflow solution. Effective end of this pay period. You will receive a severance package aligned with your tenure. HR will be in touch by Wednesday. There is a name at the bottom, a signature, someone from senior leadership you've met twice, and underneath that name, in smaller text, the almost apologetic assurance that this decision was not a reflection of your performance. You read that last part twice. Not a reflection of your performance. For 6 years you were good at this. You know you were good at this. Your reviews said you were good at this for consecutive cycles of meets or exceeds expectations, a commendation 2 years ago that your manager at the time printed out and handed to you in person. Not a reflection of your performance means you did everything right. You did everything right, and it happened anyway. The distinction feels important. It also feels like a door closing in a room you're still standing in. You find out by 10 a.m. that it isn't just you. There are 11 of you on the third floor. 12 if you count Marcus, who sits on the border between third and fourth and whose role overlapped with both teams. You find this out not through any official communication, but through the particular cellular speed of office information, which travels faster than email and more accurately than rumor, spreading through a space via the medium of people making eye contact in hallways and raising their eyebrows a fraction of a millimeter. You find yourself in the small conference room at 10:23 with 4 of the others. Nobody called a meeting. You just arrived there over the course of 8 minutes, one by one, like something pulled toward a common point by gravity. Nobody says much at first. Then Sandra, who has been here 9 years, who trained you when you started, who knows more about the actual functioning of this department than anyone, including the department head, says, "Did any of you actually see it work?" She means the system. The automated workflow solution. 2 people nod. They were in the pilot program, the internal test that ran for 6 weeks over the summer, the one that leadership described as a capacity enhancement initiative, a phrase that at the time felt bureaucratic and vague and now, in retrospect, sounds like something designed to be both true and misleading. It does the analysis in 4 minutes. One of them says, "What takes us a morning?" For minutes. Nobody responds to that immediately. For minutes sits in the room with you. You spend the rest of the morning doing something that feels both necessary and slightly absurd. You do your job. You open the files you would normally open on a Monday. You run the analysis you would normally run. You format the output the way you've always formatted it, with the specific notations your team developed over years of small refinements. The kind of institutional knowledge that exists in the gaps between formal documentation, the part of any workflow that isn't in the manual, because it evolved too gradually for anyone to think to write it down. You do this not because it will change anything. You do it because sitting at this desk, doing this work, is still something you know how to do, and for a few more days that counts for something, even if you're the only one it counts for. By 1 p.m. you've completed what would normally take until Thursday. You sit back. You look at it. Then you think, the system would have done this in 4 minutes. The HR meeting is Tuesday at 2 p.m. The woman conducting it is professional and warm in the specific way of someone who has been trained to be professional and warm in situations where professional and warm are in tension with the actual content of the conversation. She walks you through the package. Severance equal to 4 weeks for every year of service, which means 24 weeks, which means 6 months, which is more than you expected and less than you need. She asks if you have questions. You have one. What does the system actually do, you ask? What does it do that we were doing? She pauses. Not a long pause, but a real one.
Please,
The kind that
this
tells
is
you the
urgent.
question is
Urgent.
not
Show
one
me the
she
data.
prepared for.
It's coming, I
It
promise.
processes
No
and
excuses.
synthesizes
Get it
the
now.
data sets, she says. Generates the reports. Flags the anomalies for human review. Human review.
I
You
understand
say?
this is confusing.
There's still a
Let me
review
break it
layer,
down.
Huh?
she
Break
says.
what down?
A
The new
smaller
protocol.
team will
It's simpler
monitor
than it
outputs
looks.
and handle exception cases. You do the arithmetic in your head. 11 people, plus Marcus. Reduced to a smaller team. Review layer. Exception cases. How many people in the review layer, you ask? Another pause. That's still being determined, she says. You nod. You take the folder she slides across the table. You thank her, because that's what you do, because 6 years of professional behavior is not something you stop doing just because the institution has stopped valuing it. That evening you sit at your kitchen table with the folder open and your laptop open beside it, and you do something you've been avoiding for 8 months. You look at the numbers honestly. Rent. The monthly number that has stayed the same while everything around it has gotten more expensive. Utilities. Groceries. The car payment you have 14 months left on. The loan you've been paying down at the rate that felt manageable when you had a salary and feels different now. 24 weeks. You open another tab. Job listings in your field. You've been half watching this market for months. The way you watch something out of the corner of your eye without fully turning to look at it. And what you've seen is what you see now. Fewer listings than a year ago. Significantly fewer. And the ones that exist are different in ways that are hard to articulate, but real. They ask for things your role never asked for. They describe functions that are adjacent to yours, but not identical. They're looking for people who work alongside the systems rather than people who do what the systems now do. You are, in the language of the market, a legacy skill set. You read that phrase somewhere. Someone used it in an industry article about workforce transition, the same word the email used, transition, and you remember reading it 8 months ago and feeling like it was about someone else. Wednesday you go back to the office because your access still works until end of pay period, and because going home and staying there feels like a surrender to something you're not ready to surrender to yet. You sit at your desk. You look at the plant, the photo, the mug. Then you open your laptop and you do something you haven't done since your first month at this job, when you were new and uncertain and trying to understand the shape of the thing you'd walked into. You start mapping what you actually know. Not your job title, not your job description, the actual knowledge. The things inside you that 6 years of this work put there. You open a document and you start writing. You write for 3 hours. What comes out surprises you. Not because it's impressive, you're not making a case for yourself, you're not building a resume section, you're just writing down what you know, but because of how much of it is not the thing the system replaced. The system replaced the processing, the generation, the formatting, the 4-minute analysis. But the document filling your screen is not processing or generation or formatting. It's the knowledge of why the analysis matters. The client context that explains why a given anomaly is actually expected and not a flag. The institutional history that means certain numbers look wrong but aren't. The relationship layer that has no column in any dataset. The judgment calls that happen before the data is even entered, in conversations, in the reading of a room, in the understanding of what someone is actually asking for when they ask for a report. The system can do what you did. It cannot yet do what you knew. Those are different things. You've been thinking of them as the same thing for 8 months. This is the moment. Not the email. Not the HR meeting. Not the conference room with Sandra and the 4 minutes sitting in the air between you. This moment. Wednesday afternoon. 3rd floor. Your desk. Your plant. Your chipped mug. The document on your screen that is 3 hours long and contains something that has no official name and no line item on any org chart. You've spent 8 months being afraid of the wrong thing. You were afraid of being replaced. And you were replaced. That part is true. That part already happened. The email arrived, and the badge will stop working at end of pay period, and the mug will come home in a box. But you were afraid of being replaceable. Completely. Entirely. Of being the kind of thing that a 4-minute system and a smaller review layer could reproduce without remainder. And sitting here, Reading what you've written, you know that isn't true. Not because you're exceptional, because you're specific. Because 6 years of doing something real in a real place with real consequences leaves a specific residue in a person, and that residue is not in any training data set, and it cannot be automated, and it has no column in any report. The question, and you write this at the bottom of the document, the actual question, the one that matters now, is not whether you were replaceable. The question is what you do with what wasn't replaced. You pack your desk on Thursday. The plant, the photo, the mug with the chip, a handful of pens, some notebooks, a small thing a colleague gave you 2 years ago as a joke that you kept without entirely knowing why. You carry the box out through the lobby, past the water dispenser with the clicking sound that still hasn't been fixed, past the front desk where the security guard nods at you the way he always does. You push through the door into the outside. The city is doing what it does. Moving, loud, indifferent in the productive way that cities are indifferent, not hostile, just busy, already occupied with the next thing and the next. You stand on the sidewalk with your box. You think about the document, still open on your laptop, which is inside the box, which is in your arms. You think, I need to figure out what this is worth somewhere that knows how to value it. Then you start walking, not because you know where you're going. Because standing still with a box in front of a building that no longer needs you is not a thing you're willing to do for longer than it takes to decide to move. 6 years of work is in your hands. The system got 4 minutes of it. The rest is yours.